follow your nose. Like whatever you like are sniffing out, just keep going that way. And I think that's true for everyone. That inner intuitive voice is the most precious thing we have for navigating this crazy human existence. And your intuition for yourself will always be more important than my intuition about you. You know what I mean? Like your voice is the thing that's guiding all the decisions you make.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakhiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is the intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Courtney Moore. She is an intuitive healer, and today she's going to share all of her knowledge and wisdom with us. So maybe get a pen and a paper and take some notes, because this is going to be a class. And Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. I'm super happy to be here. Let's dive on in.
Yeah, for sure. I always love to begin with just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you ended up in this space.
Yeah, I'll try to be concise because it's been a winding journey, as I think is true for a lot of healers. I had a rough childhood. I think that wounded healer archetype is really alive in me. And so I had a lot of my own healing to do. I ran away from home when I was 15. I had eating disorders. I was just so unhappy. And, I started to do work on myself. I got acupuncture, I got body work, or I got chiropractic. I did a ton of yoga. And I had thought about becoming a doctor, a medical doctor, but I just realized the tools doctors use are drugs and surgery. And I think those are great. Sometimes you need drugs and surgery. So I'm not anti-Western medicine, but I didn't want those tools for my lifetime. I knew I was going to get sick of those. I knew there was so much more to the human condition I wanted to be able to address. And so I became an acupuncturist first. Well, no, I became a massage therapist first, and then I became an acupuncturist. And then at some point in my acupuncture journey, and many body workers have this experience, I just got more and more aware of the subtle energies of the body. I would just know things about people. I'd know things about their relationships. I'd know things about their mental health. I started getting these pictures when I would take someone's pulse, and I'd tell them the picture, and it'd be really helpful, and we'd sort of like talk about the picture and what it meant for them. So then I went to psychic school because that seemed like the right thing to do. And now I'm kind of emerging from all that education and trying to put it together, trying to figure out what is the best way to patch this together to really be at service of the people who need it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. There's something where we learn, we get all this knowledge. We're inside a tiny little circle, and sometimes we're afraid to go out, but it sounds like you have the knowledge. Now you're ready to explode out to the next bigger circle, which is service and putting it into action.
Absolutely. That's totally right. And the hard thing about that expansion is you don't know what's going to show up at your door. People don't look exactly like you. People have different problems and different personalities. I got really into the Enneagram because I think understanding different personality types is really helpful to understand that we all heal differently. We all need different tools.
I think I'm an 8. Is the Enneagram numbers?
Yep,
Yeah, I'm an 8.
I love an 8. That's why we're getting along so well.
And so you said acupuncture at the beginning, pain, trauma, thinking about being a doctor, and it kind of leads me towards one of the things I saw on your website was muscular pain relief. I think we could start there, and then we'll go more to the energy side a bit later.
Because, that's exactly right. That's what I found in my practice. People don't go to a healer because they're like, energy's a little off. I should probably talk to someone about that. You go to a healer because you're like, I hurt. And sometimes that's mental anguish, depression, anxiety, ADD, all the rest of it. But more often it's your body that's like, I am not going to work for you the way you want me to work. And so that brings someone into the healing world. And, I was a body worker first. I did a lot of massage. I think a lot of the things we experience somatically in our bodies are really an expression of what's happening to us spiritually, mentally, just kind of what's going on behind the scenes, right? And so in my practice, what I found is I got really good at sort of taking that pain away temporarily and then shoving people right back into the life that created that pain. And it was so unsatisfying, I just felt like a technician, and I felt like I was enabling someone. It's like giving an alcoholic another drink. Go on. Now you can live this unhealthy life for another couple of weeks and then come see me again. So I really try to listen to the body and see what it's really saying. Like, why is your low back pain there? What is your neck and shoulders so achy about? Let's find the root cause.
Yeah, that for you personally, that must be so frustrating because at the beginning you're like, you want to go in medicine, but the reason you're not doing it, and now the reason's showing up over here as well. But the body, right? So chakras, like, can you tell by chakras like what's going on with someone?
Yeah, sometimes, so I have this program where people can sort of explore this on their own, and I give them different maps. So the chakra system is one map. And so, if you have a lot of hip pain, you should look at your first chakra, which is about safety and security and groundedness, and your second chakra, which is all your feelings, all your emotions that you haven't allowed to come up and out. Sometimes that map is really helpful, and sometimes it doesn't resonate with people. I think the important thing is to know there's so many different lenses and maps and perspectives. If you don't find what you're looking for, don't quit. Just try a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's it, right? There's all these different tools and all different people saying the same thing, but a little bit differently. That's
Yep.
my first message. Anytime I'm teaching, I'm like, I'm going to throw out so much today. Whatever doesn't resonate with you, just throw it away and forget it. But the things that do, pull on that thread a little more.
Exactly. I remember I met this great intuitive early on in my career, and her message to me was just follow your nose. Like whatever you like are sniffing out, just keep going that way. And I think that's true for everyone. That inner intuitive voice is the most precious thing we have for navigating this crazy human existence. And your intuition for yourself will always be more important than my intuition about you. You know what I mean? Like your voice is the thing that's guiding all the decisions you make.
100%. Socrates, is it called Phaedo? The book, it's like his last trial of Socrates, and he's locked up in the jail, and he's in the courtroom, and he's saying like how he always had this voice that always warns him about danger and to do the right thing, and if he's in trouble to do it. And so he's in the courtroom, and he could just say, yeah, whatever they want to hear, and he'll get off. But he's like, no, I'm doing the right thing here, kind of. I'm not saying it right, but I think it's so important. So intuition, you said everyone has a different way of doing it. So is this something that everybody can develop?
100%. Everybody has intuition. I think people sometimes come to me because they're like, oh, you're intuitive. You have answers for me. And at the end of the day, you have your answers. And if I can guide, I think what you'll do is if I say something and it resonates with you and you're like, oh, yeah, I already knew that, then you'll sort of like give me the thumbs up. You know what I mean? But it has to come from inside of you. There has to be that resonance, that inner knowing. And I think we can cultivate that in all kinds of ways, right? You can do a lot of journaling. You can notice when you follow a gut feeling and try to cultivate that more. I think just like slowing down and listening, because so many of us don't listen to ourselves. And when you start listening, that's when you get all the information. That's when you get access to all of that.
Agreed. Yeah, slowing down to speed up is huge, right? You have to be quiet, shut out all the distractions from everybody because it's all just noise and it can get really jumbled inside your head.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right.
The next area would be emotional and spiritual growth.
Yeah, I think my belief is that all of us here in this human form are on a journey. We're here to learn things. And I think some people haven't opted into that journey, and that's okay. I think life will bring you here sooner or later, but that's your business, not mine. And so for those of us who know we're on this journey of expansion and growth and awareness and consciousness, our emotions are such a huge clue for what direction we need to go next. So when you're really listening to your emotions, you're constantly getting this thumbs up, thumbs down from the universe about yeah, that relationship is great for me. No, that job sucks for me. Yeah, that party's going to be awesome for me. No, I don't want to go on that hike this weekend. But you have to be feeling your feelings to get that information. And so a lot of emotional growth is about what we just talked about, slowing down and listening and allowing yourself to act on what you learn. I think people often, if emotion is inconvenient, oh, we got the thumbs down on that job. Well, I got to make money somehow, and this is a really prestigious job, and what's my wife going to say? And then we're just shove that emotion in some little corner of our bodies where it's going to make some problems later, and we stop growing, because if we're not listening to our inner guidance system, we can't grow.
Like a plant,
Totally.
like a plant, right? So we can feed ourselves You want to weeds or seeds? It's up to you, and we get to do it. I agree. Like I see so many people going through courses and certifications, and they get all this knowledge, but they don't ever use it, and it's like so frustrating because, man, you're you just end up in a cycle, right? And if you don't use it, you lose it, and so I don't know. I digress. I think top down, bottom up. So your top down looks like visualization, meditation, counseling, and even tarot.
Yeah. So top down is really this idea that we have to work with the brain. Like all of us human beings have this conscious ego mind that is running the show. And I think the ego gets a bad rap sometimes. I got some of those. I think we need the ego in a lot of ways. The ego is what, it helps us make breakfast and get to work on time. And it serves a function. We just need to know our ego is in our whole selves. In terms of healing work, I think we do need to get the ego on board some of those healing paths that we want to go down. Otherwise, it'll sabotage us. Otherwise, it'll throw up all these walls and resistances and booby traps, really, a lot of the time. And so the top-down framework is we're going to use things like visualizations, guided visualizations, meditation as a top-down technique. I like the tarot cards because I think the tarot lets you work with this like imagery and archetype that helps you decode some of the labyrinthine passages of your own mind, your ego and your subconscious. And so we can look at the tarot a lot of different ways. We can look at it as like a message from spirit. I do look at that way. We can also just look at it almost like a Rorschach test, right? Like, what do you see in this card? What is coming up for you? What does that make you think about in your life? What would make you feel better in this card? And then again, that top-down approach is just about getting the mind on board, getting the mind engaged.
Yeah, I'm the fool. That's the one that comes to mind when I think it's tarot. But all of your top-down things, visualization, meditation, tarot, all of these things, and even journaling is, I don't know, is it in there? But all of these things, they require awareness, but they require introspection. And so thinking about what we want to do, where we've come, how are we doing? Like, do we want to be somewhat different? And what does that person look like? And what am I taking steps to get there? And what did I do last week to get to this week? And is it working? But you have to actually think about it. It's not just going to happen, right?
And it's more of what we're talking about, slowing down to speed up. You have to like really reflect on, all those courses that people take. It's like, take a minute to really figure out what you want to integrate. How do you want this to change you? How do you want this to change your daily life? Because I think we can extrapolate these sort of like big concepts we want to change, but we change in minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's the tiny decisions we made. I'm going to feed myself better. I'm going to be kinder. I'm going to choose things that are, my emotions say yes to instead of the things that feel horrible inside. But they're so small, I think, a lot of the integration work we have to do.
Would mantra be in there?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when you're saying...
mantra is a great example because I do think a lot of us have sort of brainwashed ourselves into a lot of negativity. And so there's this voice in our head, this critical, negative, pessimistic voice that's just constantly telling us to be scared. And that voice is so fear-based. And so mantra is one good way to brainwash yourself into something more positive, to choose what you're brainwashing and to just like fall into the default of negativity that our society gives us.
I love it. I literally brainwashed myself for success. Like I got many different things, some while I'm going to sleep at night, just some different audios I listen to while exercising. And I'm intentionally like, I'm going to brainwash myself with this. And it worked. Like I've been doing the same one audio I listen to every day for like 5 years. And it's just like, I don't know, it's good. So my idea there is like, it's happening anyway, whether you're doing it intentionally or not. So you might as well take it control.
Absolutely. And if you don't take control, you got to live with those consequences. You know what I mean? You have to be really proactive. There's something about this human condition that just predisposes us to that fear and negativity. And so you have to take it by the reins and say, guess what, brain? We're not going down that road. And I love that you said 5 years. You do have to be so committed to the process.
Yeah, it's a grind because it's not straight up, right? It's going to be ups and downs, ups and downs. I don't know if this happened to you. You sound like you had trauma and now it's gone. For me, I had lots of trauma and it's gone now. But so something happened when it was gone. There was like this liberation of energy. First, before that happened, there was all these cathartic releases, and I didn't know what was happening. I just kept choking it back down. Now we know it's not a good idea to choke it back down because it will just come up a different way. But at the time, I didn't know. And so somebody's like, yeah, no, that's your healing that's starting. You need to just let it go. So there's like these deep breaths, like overwhelming, right? But then something happened where my brain, like, it felt like a click, like just one time click. And I was just like, wow, I don't know if that's same for other people, but what do you think about that?
Well, that kind of ties into what we were just talking about with the bottom up side of things. So top down is getting your head in the game. Bottom up is letting your body, which, and you know, that famous book, The Body Keeps the Score. And another good one, When the Body Says No. The body is keeping track of everything that's going on. It's storing all of your memories, your experiences, your relationships, your beliefs. And when you're trying to shift out of that lower vibration pattern, you got to let your body really release what it's been holding on to. And so, you know, for me, bottom up can be body work, acupuncture. It can be breath work. It can be taking something like herbs or homeopathic remedies, anything that lets your tissues start to release and change, to shift. It takes a lot to shift the body experience. And I love your examples because I think often it can be really cathartic. It's sort of like a purging of what's old and letting in what's new.
Purging is a really good word. Yeah. So how about gardening or like just touching the soil, putting your feet on the grass?
Yeah, awesome. You know, I I think everyone who comes to me really needs to learn better grounding techniques. And going back to the chakras, I think our root chakras are just weak. We're in our head so much. We're up in this part of our body, not in the lower part. And gardening or touching the soil is one of my favorite grounding techniques because you're literally connecting with the earth. You're literally tapping into that rich, grounded, nourishing energy that's always available to us, but we just forget because we're up here.
Awesome. So you said tapping. So is tapping, is that like bottom up or top down? Probably bottom up.
That's a good question. I think that kind of bridges it because you're accessing the body for the bottom up, but you're usually, as you tap, you're saying things. That's the top down, getting your brain involved. Maybe that's part of what I love EFT, and I think it maybe it's so effective because you're doing both.
So EFT and the last thing you were saying about the trauma stored in the body, both of them together can be explained through yoga sciences. So they call them some scars, the trauma that we trap in our body, right?
Yeah.
But then even EFT is like your meridian points. There's just a blockage in one of your chakras. There's like 7, but apparently there's like 120 and even more.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah.
And so what the tapping does, it allows that blood to just flow properly, or it's almost like there's a rock stuck in a river, and then you pull out the rock, the water can flow through.
Totally. And you know, that's the root of yoga practice also. All those positions are to release some scars in the body so the energy can flow where it's stuck.
I tried acupuncture once and it didn't really work, but then I was thinking later on, I wonder if like you have to be ready for it.
There are so many forms of Chinese medicine, so many different schools of Chinese medicine. It's kind of like getting a massage. Well, are you getting deep tissue? Are you getting Thai? Are you getting Swedish? Are you getting craniosacral? It's the same with acupuncture. There's 5-element, there's Shanghang Lun base, there's channel work, there's mirror work. You know, there's just so many different ways to do it. And my belief is that when you're really ready, you're going to find the practitioner and style that's right for you. So it's not like you weren't ready to find the right person yet. It sounds like that person wasn't the right person. And if or when you're ever ready for that experience, you're going to magnetize that new modality to you.
Yeah, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
So you might have said it, but how do you get the ego on board with you? If the ego's always trying to fight you and tell you to do this and just, you don't have to go for a run today, just lie in bed. It's nice and warm. How do you get the ego on board?
Man, it's such a good question. You know, I've been doing a lot of work on trauma lately, just learning about trauma, reading up on trauma, networking with therapists who specialize in trauma. And this one woman I networked with who's incredible, she really feels like internal family systems and EMDR is the winning combo for getting on the other side of trauma. And I think those two things are the winning combo for getting your ego on board. Internal family systems, for those of you who might not know, is this concept that we have all these different parts of self, all these different voices in our head, And none of them are wrong. We don't want to make any of them bad or evil or ostracize them. Even the voice that's really critical, or the voice that's just like your mother's voice lodged in your head, whatever those voices are, they're there for a reason. There's a part of your psyche that's actually trying to help you and protect you. It just might be really misguided. And so IFS talks to all those different voices, listens to them, and really tries to get your whole psyche on board with your highest good, whatever that looks like. EMDR, I always forget the words stand for, or the letters stand for, but it's a form of therapy where you sort of like watch a finger or a little ball on a screen go side to side while you're thinking of a traumatic memory. And it helps you purge, again, all the like charge associated with that memory. And I think those two things really help the ego release whatever resistance, skepticism, criticism that's stopping you, so that you can choose the thing that's actually good for you.
Yeah, there's something called brain spotting, and it's kind of similar. So EMDR, or whatever you called it, eye movement desensitization, I don't know.
You're on it.
You move their eyes back and forth following this thing.
Yeah.
The brain spotting is something very similar, where they have this like stick, like it's almost like a thing teachers would point at the board, but they hold it there, and there's a certain point when your eyes lock onto it, and then you're in that memory, and then they can almost suck that memory out. It's kind of crazy, but I love all of it. How about Reiki?
I do Reiki. I received my first 3 Reiki attunements, and so I integrate it in most of my sessions, because it's such a nice thing to do on top of the needles. Like someone's resting with the needles in it, you can just add some Reiki to any part of their body that feels like it could use a little hug. You know, I have mixed feelings about Reiki, because I've had some Reiki where it really feels like nothing's happening. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're moving some energy. But then I've had a couple Reiki sessions where it's incredible, where I feel it. It's like I feel this rush of heat coming into my body, and they're not even touching me sometimes. You know, their hands are like hovering over me. It's crazy. It's just made me again think, when you're ready, you find that right practitioner. Someone can have the right modality but be the wrong person for you. And I think the good Reiki practitioners are incredible, really, really powerful healers.
Yeah, there's a guy named Jeffrey Allen. I'm not sure if you know him, but he is unbelievable. So I went to this like conference in LA, and it was all about Reiki. After the conference is over, everyone leaves, clears out of the room. I go back like 5 minutes later because I forgot my book or whatever, right? And he's standing behind this lady. So the lady's facing the wall with her eyes closed. He's not even touching her, and he's like ripping out energy cords, and she's like twitching. And like, she has no idea that he's doing that. Her eyes are closed. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I don't know what to think of that. Like, how can you not believe that? Like, so
Right.
very
It's
cool.
fulfilling sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess the question would be, what is your favorite? I guess you use all of them, obviously, but do you have a favorite between all these energy worlds?
You know, my favorite thing to do, when I went to psychic school, they really develop your clairvoyance. And I just love doing a clairvoyant reading for someone. I love that I can do it over Zoom. I don't have to, have someone in the room with me. I love the pictures that come through. I love how I feel I can sort of like get to the root really quickly when I look at something as pictures. And I love, a big part of my journey as a healer has been recognizing that I'm not responsible for my patients' healing and growth. And one of the nice things about the clairvoyance is I can be a little hands off. I can be like, hey, here's what I see going on. What you do with it is your business. But like, I have witnessed the way your energetic flow isn't working for you, and now it's in your hands to do something about that. And that's really liberating for me.
Yeah. It's such an empowering thing, right? Because like, I don't know, for me, I was stuck in this world. You know Joe Dispenza?
For sure. Yeah.
Of course. So
Yeah.
I heard him say, like, stop giving your power to the doctor. And I was like, oh my God, I'm giving my power to the doctor because the only reason is because he's a doctor.
Yeah.
And so once you start changing that, or taking it back your power, it's just like, whoa, changes everything.
Totally. A friend of mine, his dad went to a doctor, 10 or 20 years ago, and the doctor told him he should have a glass of white wine every night for his heart, which we know that's not true, right? It's red wine. But because some doctor told him this 20 years ago, Bing has a glass of white wine every night.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I guess as we begin to wind down, if this episode resonates, please like, subscribe, share, and reach out to Courtney, especially if you need some kind of energy work. She's got all of it going on, but not just that. She can do the mind as well, and bridging the mind-body connection, which is everyone listening to this knows that's all I'm all about. And that's what we try to do here. It's so important. And I think I ask everyone this question, Courtney. This is the Phase 4 podcast. Phase 4 in the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating your future 3 years out. So where is Courtney 3 years from today?
3 years. You know, I moved my practice across town, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. And it's a really different space. I'm slower than I have been. I definitely want to build this clinic up, and I'd really like to build it up with other practitioners, get some Reiki folks, some body workers. And I think, oh yeah, thanks for this great prompt. It's really fun to think about. I have been doing so much research and learning about trauma. I'd like to be able to work with trauma more gracefully in my practice. It's a delicate, you have to like really respect where people are coming from there. So I want to make sure I'm really ready for it. But yeah, I'd like to have this bigger clinic, more practitioners involved, super busy, and more able to work with trauma.
Brilliant. I love that answer. I think there's other ones like a human design. I'm trying to think of some other ones family constellations. You know what that is?
Yeah, one of my best friends did that in Mexico recently, and she said it was better than 10 years of therapy. She said she got so much healing out of it. I've been super curious to try it myself.
Wow. And how about ayahuasca? Is it you with Costa Rica retreats or no?
I do, yeah. I do some retreats in Costa Rica. And I partner with some plant medicine folks. Ayahuasca's funny. I see my like cadre, I call them my wise women. I've got psychics and astrologers and divinators and all these great people. And in the middle of 5 different sessions, in the middle of it, like we're just having a conversation like this, and the woman will be like, oh, by the way, you, Courtney, should never take ayahuasca. 5 times. So after a while, I had to be like, okay, I get it. Message received. I'm not going to fight it. Not my substance. It sort of makes sense about the plant medicine world because I know it can be very helpful for people. I also see I see a couple things. I think ayahuasca in particular really, it like deconstructs the ego. So if you're someone who has this really firm ego, one of my teachers said, like the finance guys downtown, they are a great candidate for ayahuasca because they need that sucker punch. They need someone who's really going to like break them down. But I see a lot of like women in their early 20s doing ayahuasca. And honestly, their egos need to be more built up. They already don't have a strong sense of self. They already don't have a strong sense of self-worth. And they do it, like a few times a year. And I look in their eyes and I'm like, are you in there? Like you deconstructed to the point, like you're like an abstract painting now, And also I see a lot of colleagues and friends in the plant medicine community who get sort of more attached to the narrative of their trauma and their deficiency and don't necessarily become better people in the world. They don't become more service-oriented. They don't become more generous of spirit. And to me, that's why we're here. We're here to be of service to each other. And so, I don't know. I look at some of those people and I'm like, I don't know. I think you're getting sort of like addicted to the peak experience, the like sexy drama of what these things can show you. But are you really using it to heal yourself and be a better person? Jury's still out for me.
I agree. I love the idea of like you're thinking about it, right? You're not just jumping on the bandwagon it seems like a fad almost. That's what it feels like. It keeps coming up for me over and over again. Not don't do it ever, but it just somehow keeps coming back in my life. And it's like, and now I'm curious, but.
Well, I'll share one story too. I have a patient who I've worked with for years, and she has a couple physical health things that we just couldn't get on the other side of. I tried all of my tools, acupuncture, herbs, homeopathy. I sent her to other practitioners, a naturopath, changed her diet. It's a digestive thing. Could not solve this problem. This patient is a very self-aware person. She's a therapist. She's very reflective. So my point in saying that is she really does her inner work. And she went to Peru to do ayahuasca. I think it was Peru. I went to Costa Rica. Her digestion is healed. it's healed after just like, a week in the jungle. It's crazy to me. And so I do think with the right preparation and the right mindset, it can be really powerful medicine. I just think we have to respect it. I think we have to have a lot of respect for it.
Yeah. And now we see a lot of ketamine, lidocaine together, psilocybin, all hallucinogenics sometimes in clinical settings. And I don't know how it is in San Francisco, but I know in like states like Florida, it's just starting to come more and more. Is that something that you ever see or you do?
Yeah, actually, I've got a lot to say on that one. I did a ketamine journey. I used to work at a clinic in San Francisco, and a physician and psychotherapist, I think maybe psychologists, were starting a ketamine business. And so they offered the whole clinic staff like a big discount just to have the experience so we could send our clients their way. And I'd been wanting to do something like that, like a guided experience with someone who was really a professional. This changed my life. It was so powerful. I'm someone who struggles with depression. I always have. And I mean, God, it was so beautiful. It was ketamine injections, which I know a lot of people are doing lozenges. If there's any way you can do the injections, I encourage you to do that. And we did it in sort of 2 tiers. So we did a lighter dose where we were doing active therapy and we were talking about like limiting beliefs and identity and who I wanted to be. And it was really powerful to be working that way. And then the doctor, he said, oh, ketamine always shows up as a anthropomorphized person of some kind in my trips. And so I was happy with the low dose. I was like, let's keep doing this. This is therapy. I love therapy. This is awesome. And then I saw this huge, like, leaf wing creature against a backdrop of stars. And she says, I know you want to stay here, but there's somewhere I want to take you. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so then we did a higher dose, and I just had this remarkable experience of feeling myself as the oneness of the universe, recognizing myself as the creator of my experience. I was like moving my hands and like building furniture and stairways and just like, oh yeah, my consciousness is what's creating my experience. That's the thing I have control over. And I felt good afterwards. I wasn't really sure if I was doing anything. About 6 months later, I saw a friend from high school, and she was like, dude, what happened to you? Like, you're just less melancholy than you normally are. And I was like, oh shit, that really did something.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a believer, I think, and I've seen it really help a lot of my patients. Again, I think we have to respect it. The more intentionality, so I send a lot of patients to those folks who did that journey. Unfortunately, I figured out it is such a fad right now, and they changed their business model. So it was just injection, eye pillow, music. We'll see you in 4 hours. And I just don't think that's the same as someone like having a conversation with you. That's the power of it. It's more work, but it's transformative. So again, setting, and dose with anything psychedelic related. I think if you can do it with a guide who really knows what they're doing, there's real potential for a breakthrough experience there.
Yeah. I love it. I did a like lidocaine and ketamine injection together, but all it did for me, I felt high while I was there. And then when I left, there was nothing. But they had us in a room, like 4 or 5 people, and everyone's just on a chair like this. And it was like,
yep.
I felt like a fracket or something.
Totally. I think that's a waste of the medicine, honestly. Like, it's doing something chemically, and maybe that's enough for some folks, but you're missing the potential for this really.
Right. And that's another part there. When you see that, it's like, okay, this is totally just a business. They're getting 5 people in as quick as possible, get them out next.
Yep. It's a money game, and that's kind of gross.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess before I ask my final question, is there anything we need to cover? If you have something to sell it. If you want to leave a message of hope or inspiration, or just tell us something about yourself we don't know.
Yeah, well, I just launched my program, so I would love to tell folks about that. It's brand new. I worked on it all last year. I launched it about 2 months ago. It's called The Liberated Body, and it's so that people can really explore that mind-body connection for themselves. I teach people, what is energy? What is pain? Pain is a language. What are emotions? What happens when they get sick of the body? The whole first half of the course is all just education about this whole energy in the body situation that we find ourselves in. And then the whole second half of the course is tools to release that stuck energy once we've identified it. And so we do EFT, we do breath work, we do toning, all the different tools to get your nervous system to relax and to sort of like set the stage for that cathartic purge that we know needs to happen.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love it. And then my final question would be, where can people reach you?
Yeah, check me out online, CourtneyMooreWellness.com. I'm also on Instagram, Courtney Moore Wellness, and on Facebook. Those are probably the best channels. I'd love to see y'all there.
All right. Courtney, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome. I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you very much. This was great.